What's up, guys? My name is Your Heroes, and welcome back to more Call to Arms Panzer Elite. Yes, that's right. As you know, I've said I'm going to be doing or covering updates for Panzer Elite as it goes through the game. Now, this is its official kind of proper big update version 0.01.07, if you can say that in a mouthful. So there is a total of 18 changes or updates that has been for this specific update. So we are just going to get straight into it, and let me guys know down at the bottom if you have been enjoying these changes, or if I know these changes are probably going to be put in soon, because this was posted on the October the 9th, so I am a wee bit behind as always, and I like to try and stay up to date. But as you know, I am been having trouble with one of my World of Tanks and it keeps failing to update, so I was basically just not on my computer because of it, and I don't know why that made any sense. But let's go through it, and I hope you guys just get some popcorn, get a drink, sit back, relax, and I hope you do enjoy this. And if you want to see more content like this, then make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and let's get straight into it. So there's the first one, which is going to be general fixes and changes. So these are things that are, general. So first of all, there's going to be the Tiger netting texture has been updated. So obviously the Tiger tank is in the game, and obviously with the netting, that's I think at the top of the tank or at the behind of the turret, I think it is. So obviously the textures have obviously been a wee bit funny, so they have now been updated, as well as this is something that is going to be added or coming soon to placeholder. So missions that are being worked on have been placed on the mission board, so you can see which ones are currently in progress, and that's really good. And that's because I think this should have been maybe a wee bit earlier, or maybe put into the game in the first place, because just so when you load into the main gamer or the main menu, you should automatically see, because there's quite a lot of missions that are in early access. So I think there should be some sort of placeholder, or as it says, a mission board, which allows you to tell you the progress of your mission. So if you're doing one mission and you're kind of halfway through it, or you're dying, then you save it, it shows, and when you go back to the main menu, play another menu, it tells you the original mission that you were kind of playing in the first place when you're halfway through it. So if this is something that's going to be coming soon, this is huge, and I think people will enjoy this. So that's the general fixes. Now, this is something that I think people have been requesting quite a lot, is a tank site. So as you know, you can go into first person, and as you know, it is early access. The game has still a lot of potential to show, so these changes are still subject to change and probably are going to be tweaked throughout the time, so please take that into consideration. But they've added historical accurate scopes. So that means for every tank, both US and German now feature their own historical scope in its first person view. So I presume maybe the actual features of the scope is different between the German and US vehicles, so you'll maybe see a actual physical difference in the scopes as well. So you might see the color of it on certain scopes, or maybe the way the scope is kind of aimed out slightly, the lines in the scope is maybe different from one another, maybe kind of little things maybe, and that is something I'll be taking a look at in the game as well. You've got the first person camera view, so that'll be the internal view has been adjusted so it's historically accurate position. I've not officially tested out this myself or noticed a difference yet, but I will be testing this to find out if this is actually true. And if you guys have noticed a difference about the tank size in the internal views, then let me know in the comments down below. They've also adjusted the magnification levels. I know I can't say that word. So that means that tank site magnification levels have been adjusted to realistic levels. They've also worked on scopes, or work on scopes doesn't end here. We will also continue to improve on them to match the feeling of controlling when your tank is from the inside. That is very interesting to see, because as you know, in kind of Gates of Hell, when you go into first person, when you shoot out of the scope, it kind of stays still. So when you shoot out of there's no kind of, there is slight movement when you shoot, but you can see, especially when you're going in a sniper view, as you know, when you're standing up, the camera moves everywhere because you're not accurate, whereas in a sniper view, when you're lying down, it is completely still in the scope view. So I wonder if it's going to be a wee bit like that when you are maybe shooting on the move, then and you're in scope view, maybe the scope view is kind of going to move about everywhere, the camera view is going to move about everywhere, so that means you're not accurate, whereas maybe if you stay still, then your camera kind of sight magnification will be like, can be really, really good and accurate in that way. So that was the tank sights. Moving on to balancing, and I know I'm kind of going through this quickly, but there is a lot of changes, so I'm trying to get through them. So the balancing, so all projectile penetration values have been adjusted to be more realistic. So this will include that this should stop long unrealistic battles and help the player to properly damage components. We will continue to make adjustments to penetration systems after reviewing current changes. Yeah, I think this is going to take a whole process to do, because as you know, penetration values on different types of ammo is completely different, and because Panzer Elite has added so many different shell types into the game, I think that each have their own like damage. As you know, in Panzer Elite, it has its own penetration value and its damage value. So it doesn't tell you an exact number, but it tells you kind of like in a level scale. So as you know, for like APCR, the damage level is up, whereas the penetration level's up, but the damage level is kind of a wee bit lower. So that's kind of the way the system works for that. But I'm sure they said they've adjusted it, or this will stop long unrealistic battles and help players to properly damage components. So this will maybe help them recognize the ammo types better, instead of kind of guessing which ones are not. They've also said for the M8 Scots, penetration values and amount of heat shells have been reduced to its correct values. Yes, I think that I did play the M8 Scott, and when I was playing it, I did notice the heat shells were quite a lot to where it's actual realistic version where it didn't have a lot of heat shells, so they've been actually reduced, which is quite good but also quite bad. So be careful when you're playing the M8 Scott that you don't run out of heat shells, and make sure you keep an eye on your shells, because as you know, the M8 Scott is already kind of a weak target in itself. It doesn't have a lot of armor, you know, could be probably penetrated by HE because it does have that open top as well. So be careful with the M8 Scott. It does have a howitzer gun, but keep it at kind of short to medium distance, so you're still where you're not obviously being, you know, targeted. The Stu H price and amount of heat shells have been adjusted to make it an interesting option for both campaign and skirmish. Now this is something I didn't actually notice about the price, is that I didn't think there was even a price system in the game for kind of heat shells or type of shells, but because the way I was looking at shells is just I was more concentrating on the type of damage and the type of penetration they do, so I didn't even realize there was a price kind of system in the game for shells. So this is something I'm going to have to be taking a look at, and if you guys have noticed it, then let me know whether heat shells are like really expensive or they're really kind of cheap. Now heat shells are kind of, they do better at dealing damages you know, for tougher targets, you know, the M4 Shermans, but remember, heat shells don't gain any penetration over distance, so that means when you shoot, then the penetration stays the same with heat shells, so it doesn't, the shell velocity as well I think the shell velocity doesn't lose any distance, over distance, sorry, as well as the penetration value on those heat shells. So just remember that with heat shells, that they are expensive, but they are very valuable shells as well. You're also no longer able to move while repairs are taking place. Now that is huge. This is something that I actually critiqued, this is something I actually very much wanted in the game, and I know that might be a kind of a shock, but I think that to make it realistic, I think that you need to stop and repair your vehicle. And when I was playing this game and you're able to kind of repair and be on the move, I think that's kind of taking it slightly above. Like, I think that's kind of almost like cheating levels, I think. I think you should be able to, there should be some sort of disadvantage when repairing, and that is that you should stop, wait for all your components to be repaired, and then move on. And this is exactly what they've done. So they've listened to us, and I'm glad they've done this, because honestly, if they kept the repairs while you're able to move, I think this would have made the game completely unfair and made kind of tanks and repair system completely broken. So I'm glad they've added that in. Moving on to game menus. So the game progress block warning. So this means that the game will now warn if Windows is preventing you from saving your progress due to security restrictions from the save game file. I think this already, slightly did it, where you couldn't do an autosave because it didn't have an autosave system. But I think now that they will actually warn you if Windows is preventing you from saving your progress due to it. So make sure that that the Windows, is okay for you to save the game and on the file. So make sure that is a definite thing that you need to do. The main menu buttons adjusted to make it easier to navigate. They've also introduced co-op invite button and should now be easier to locate and use. The welcome message adjustment. So the welcome message will no longer open to web pages, and the hotkeys have been adjusted. These are kind of huge changes. I think these are really good and welcoming changes. I think for new players who are maybe kind of new to this game, I think they will find the UI quite a lot and quite confusing. So I'm glad they are adding these kind of slightly easier ways for the kind of welcoming game menu. So that means it's easier for people to get into certain areas, whether it's like campaign or co-op or anything like that. It's very nice. And also they've added the copy coordinations button. So in this case, that in the escape menu game, you can now click the coordinations in the bottom right of the screen to copy your current coordinations map to send a bug report to the team. That is actually very good. So that means if you do come into an instance where you are find a bug or report or something crashes, then you are able to press to escape menu and then click on coordinations and the bottom right hand of the screen to copy your current coordinations or on the map exactly where your location is and then send it to them. That is huge, and I'm glad they are doing this because as I said, this game is in early access, so they need to get as much information as possible to help this game become a good proper release, fully released game. Going on to skirmish. So I'll just go through them first and I'll talk about them after. So destroying enemies in skirmishes now awards more points. Enemy AI units should now properly leave their spawn area on Mortain. Bio spawn has been adjusted so you no longer spawn in stuck positions on Germany side. Lobbies created with a different build version are automatically filtered out in the server browser. And lastly, the camera should no longer teleport under the tank on a match end. Yeah, that is, to be fair, that is one thing that actually did happen towards the end of like a match, is that the camera would like teleport underneath the tank, and it was really just weird and awkward. So I'm glad they've now fixed that. But going through this, they've destroying enemy in skirmishes now awards more points. I think this is good because I did play skirmish and I thought the points was very disappointing. I thought you could definitely get a lot more points. I think actually it was probably just the amount of save points as like a campaign points mission, or even slightly less. So I think this is huge that they've added this. I'm glad they've added that. The enemy AI units now properly leave their spawn area on Mortain. I think this is very good, but I think this should be a general thing that they should have added, not just on one specific mission. I think that if they're just going to add it to one mission, they should add it to everything, not just one mission. They should add it to the whole single player campaign, to the conquest, to multiplayer co-op, multiplayer co-op because you won't have AI in that, but in the single player campaigns and skirmishes, they should be moving out of your their spawn points automatically, because I played Mortain and the AI just stuck there, and the AI just was left there in the spawn point, and I was basically exposed, surrounded, and my tank died. That means when I spawned to the other tank, which the AI was in control of, I had to then go back from the spawn base all the way back to where I was fighting again. So I'm glad they've done this, but they should have added this to the whole kind of single player mission campaign and conquest. Biome spawn has been adjusted so you should no longer spawn on a stuck position on the Ger side. Yeah, I think that was absolutely necessary. I found this many troubling times as well, and I think it was just awful. Lobbies created with a different build version are automatically filtered out, and the server browser is good. This means it'll be easier to manage, and people will be able to find your server, so it's not all confusing. Good, so that is the kind of the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is the 5 changes that have been added to the game. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. It'd be much appreciated. Next, we're going on to missions. So after completing mission, a button is available to replay the same mission. Oh, that's good, because usually actually when you die, you usually have to go back to the spawn menu or back to the main menu, and then you have to replay that menu. But now you're able to replay the same menu by not going out of the game in the first place. But these are, so there's been 1, 2, 3, 4. There's been 4 changes to certain missions. So the Panzer layer, players will now receive their new units even if their supply objective is completed ahead of time. Progress won't come to a halt anymore because of enemy vehicles hiding behind vehicles. Trucks now leave the church plaza more easily when evacuating. The supply objective marker now appears as intended above the resupply station, and the hint to use the order menu now appears as intended when the new unit's been added. That's great. Now, the biggest concern for me about this mission was about the supply trucks not leaving the evacuation, or when they were doing evacuating, they would just kind of like, so the front one, I think there was 4 supply trucks, I think, or 5. The first supply truck will go spin all the way ahead and kind of just leave the other 4 behind, and then the other 2 would kind of just go and sink, and then the last supply truck would just move about 5 inches and then just stop throughout the whole way. That was my glass. And they would just stop and then they would go. So I'm glad this is a huge, good implement for, that was a huge big change for me, or something that I saw, and I'm glad now that it's kind of just been added into that. Going on to Mortain. So spotted enemies and allied units now display their outer outline correctly. The objective name, capture the train station, has been renamed to the progression to make the progression clear. Objective markers disappear properly, so this means that after completing an objective, markers should now disappear more reliably, and highlights remaining enemies. So this means towards the later phase of the mission, the highlights for the last standing enemies now kicks in earlier. These are some huge changes. To be fair, I didn't think I got to this mission, Mortain, so I don't know quite a lot about this. If anybody has got to the Mortain mission, then let me know, or because I kept getting stuck on this stupid Panzer layer. The first mission, I know I'm that bad, but I kind of got stuck on this one and I didn't know, or it was locked, I think, and I couldn't complete it. As well as the Stützpunkt Lagheg. The German flanks now won't be occupied by US soldiers anymore. Again, yeah, for this one, I got stuck on, as well as the V.0.01.07. So I'm going to have to replay these missions and find out whether these changes have been made. But if you've played any of these missions and you find a massive difference to these changes, then let me know in the comments, because it would really help to get your opinion and help everybody else in the community to help find their way through these missions. And lastly, for V.0.0285, friendly tanks will now be destroyed as intended when moving bravely into dangerous areas if they won't return quickly. So that is all the changes being added to the missions. Now, as I said, I've only played the Panzer Lehr mission and a bit of Mortain, but I got stuck, and I think also my game crashed several times while playing the Mortain mission as well, so I wasn't able to play it properly. But now that this has been updated, I'm hopefully able to play the Mortain mission as well. But hopefully you guys have not had any issues and you're able to let me know in the comments down below whether these changes have helped or not. Moving to tank collision. So now they've changed the way the collisions between tanks are simulated. They should not get stuck in each other less often. Now that is huge. That is something that I constantly got stuck on, is that when I kind of crashed into a tank, or when I collided into my ally AI, they would just kind of just clunkily either just stop, or even just kind of flipped out a wee bit actually as well, which was really weird. So I thought that was, I'm glad they've managed to fix that, and I don't know if anybody else has had any problems with that. The gun barrels are not able to push other tanks anymore. To be fair, I didn't actually think the gun barrels were able to push. I didn't actually see that, but if anybody, obviously you guys have had this issue before, but yeah, I've not had this issue. Barrels of destroyed tanks won't collide anymore. That's good. I did have that issue when barrels of destroyed tank won't collide, so that means that when the barrels of the tanks that are destroyed of those tanks, they will basically hit each other and freak out. Or they'll basically just kind of, if they're kind of close to each other, maybe the barrels will kind of just, maybe just one will go that way and one will go down that way or something like that. So, but I'm glad this is, or it won't be a glitch anymore. Moving on to HUD. So now the fuel tanks component will now highlight yellow when damaged. The hurt indicator, when it's grayscale texture when your tank is hurt, will now update properly. The list of objectives and crew messages in the tab menu won't overlap anymore in missions with many objectives. And the ammo type names, the type of ammo the type of names of different ammunition have been added to the HUD. That is huge. I thought this needed to be added from the very start. When I was playing the missions, I genuinely couldn't tell, or I forgot which ammunition type was which. The only way I was able to tell the difference is by the color of the type of shells, or by the penetration and damage scale. I knew HE was quite an obvious one, and APCR and heat was quite an obvious one, but there was different ones which were quite similar that I couldn't really tell. But now that they've actually got the names on them, this will make a huge difference to helping me and you guys, you know, decide which ammo type you need for different situations in battle. And knowing that the fuel tank component will now highlight yellow when damaged, this is a good thing as well. To be fair, I thought it actually already highlighted yellow, but obviously not. So that is some good changes right there. The hangover, or the hangover, yeah, I'm obviously having a hangover with this, with me reading. The hanger has added more variations for crew skins. Each mission now shows a list of recommended tanks, and mission selection now shows the new missions that are coming soon. That is excellent. I think the hanger still has a lot to improve upon, but these are some good small changes I think that have been added. I think they've added for the crew skins. I think it's good because I thought all of it, the crew skins were all repetitive and the same, which made it quite boring, but now they've added it to make it very interesting, more appealing. They've now, and also each mission now is a short list of recommended tank. That's very good. So I'm hoping now that the game will now recommend which tanks you should take with each mission, because each mission has a different map, and with each map has different kind of locations, which means you need to take specific tanks, whether it's a tank destroyer, a heavy tank, a medium tank. Every map and mission is suited differently for each tank and situation, which is good. You've got the AI platoon control, so the hold order menu, so the hold and follow should now work consistently when managing your platoon. I hope so, because obviously the pathing, which kind of what we're getting onto as well, isn't really working, but apparently many individual rocks and small inclines have been smoothed to prevent tanks from getting stuck on them as often. Yeah, that was a huge problem that I found, is that the AI would, if there's a building, if an AI knocked down like a massive building, the AI would always get stuck on the building. So even when trying to reverse, go forward, go left, go right, they would just get stuck, and I would have to control them, manually reverse them, and then go back to the tank that I was originally taking control of. So that is a huge fact, and they need to concentrate on that more, but huge. Coming towards kind of the end of it, now we're getting to settings. So crew barks and other voices lines have been split and can be controlled with separate toggle buttons. The audio device should now default the system default unless changed. Added ammo name and ammo type options to toggle visibility. Tank track traces have been re-enabled and are now toggleable in the settings to increase performance. So those are huge changes. I think the ammo one should have been a first priority. Honestly, that is what should have been from the start of the game. Honestly, that's what kind of annoys me, that fact that the shells have been introduced to the game, the name should have been there in the first place. But I'm glad they're adding it now, and they're making it very visible so everybody can see it. And I hope what the crew barks and other voice lines have been split and can be controlled. I hope what this means is that now the crew will actually talk during missions, but I'm not sure if that's what it means. I don't think so. But one of my big problems that I had is that, which we're kind of coming to the sound and voiceover, is that whenever you're in a mission and you can see kind of the dialogue from the crew talking about the missions, there's no sound, there's no voice lines for those crews, and it frustrated me so much because I was trying to read the missions from the crew on the bottom left, which is small writing, but at the time you're trying to concentrate on the battle by not getting shot and killed. So I hope this is something they've added to this update. So going on to sound, in that case, they've defaulted the master volume level reduced by 50%. That's awesome. So the volume will be automatically at 50%, which is excellent. Voiceovers, all AI barks or speaks "we've been hit" that occur during combat have been exchanged for human voiceovers, which is good. So it sounds more human instead of less robotic. Hangover sounds effects won't carry over. Keep saying hangover. Hanger sounds effects won't carry over into the cinematic anymore. Yes, that is something that I found out a lot, or something that I had, is that when I was picking the tank, and I was getting ready, and then it went straight into the cinematic. I could still hear the hangar music go into the cinematic, and I actually thought that music was part of the cinematic, but it wasn't when I listened to it more. So yeah, I'm glad they've got rid of that. Spectating players and players in the end of mission screen can now hear all crew messages. That is brilliant, and I think they should be able to hear also the voices that the crew messages from the mission as well. And lastly, going on to crew crash fixes, is that fixed a crash that occurred when trying to view the profile of a player and the various small crash fixes. So that is also very good as well. So there you go, guys. That is the update version 0.01.07. A lot of zeros there. If you guys have enjoyed this, and make sure you leave a like, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be doing more of these Call to Arms Panzer Elite updates just like I do with Gates of Hell. There's no difference, except these might be a wee bit longer than your Gates of Hell's one, but I'm still going to be making news content update for Panzer Elite. So there you go, guys. That is it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know in the comments down below what has been your favorite part of this update and whether you've actually seen a physical difference, and also let me know down below whether you've been enjoying this game as well or not, because it'd be really good to know whether it'll be helpful for other people who are still undecided on this game whether they want to buy it or not. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching and our support, and I will see you in the next video. See you later and goodbye.